Good evening, Bucknoters. Welcome into the What We Learned Live following Ohio State's 41-7 win over Purdue. I am Dave Biddle. I will be joined by Matt Baxendell in just a little bit. I'll be joined by Heater, a.k.a. Heath Schneider, a little bit after that. And then we'll hear from Patrick Murphy from Ross-Ade Stadium. Really good win for the Buckeyes, 41-7 over Purdue. Buckeyes, they were favored by 20 pretty much all week. It dropped to 19.5, last few days. And then today it dropped to 17.5. I think probably because people thought it'd be bad weather, which it was in the second half. It wasn't terrible, but the first half was dry. But a really good win for the Buckeyes, 41-7 at Purdue. Again, Buckeyes came in, at kickoff favored by 17.5, and they really took it to Purdue, winning this game by 34. So great job by Ohio State. Great to see Dallin Hayden step up like that. So much for him redshirting. Obviously, technically, he still could redshirt. He still could redshirt, but because this is just the second game he played in. But I don't know why you would at this point. I mean, he looks really, really good. You can make the argument that he's the best running back on this team, if not one of the best, and you need him. So, and he just brings kind of a different element, I mean, Trey's the game breaker, maybe the biggest home run hitter, but Dallin just has that total package, that slasher, and Purdue's been pretty good. I mean, at least their D-line has been pretty stout this year. But Ohio State was able to get the job done. It was good to see that wrinkle with Devin Brown. That's another thing we learned. Devin Brown getting that Tebow-esque goal line short yardage role. That was interesting to see. I did not expect that. And, Purdue did not expect that. So he did have the fumble, his second time doing it. But that was just, I give Purdue credit for that. You're diving across the goal line. That guy put his helmet right on the ball. Yeah, you got to protect the ball. I get it. But, that was textbook. Give Purdue credit for that fumble. Dallin, I just talked up Dallin. Dallin's got to fall on that ball in the end zone. But Dallin, great job by Dallin. Ohio State's defense once again steps up. Not that Purdue's offense is going to ever get confused with a good offense, but great job by the defense. Great job. This D-line dominated. Again, a decimated Purdue O-line. I get that, but this Ohio State D-line dominated. And it was really good to see. It was fantastic to see, actually. So, again, we're going to hear from Bax in a moment. Then we're going to hear from Heath Schneider, Heater. We'll get to some of the questions here. Jam OSU, did Hicks play? Yeah, I mean, he played late. He played the fourth quarter, but he did play. He always plays on special teams, but I know what you mean. Did he play at linebacker? Yeah, he played because they got that second team, defense and offense, and, really for the entire fourth quarter, which was great. It's another thing we learned. It was great to see those young ones out there, not just Devin Brown. We knew Carnell Tate would have a bigger role this game. And he did. He got a touchdown, 3 or 4 receptions, including a long one. And then it was really cool to see Brandon Ennis get his – what a way to get – it's like a baseball player. You get called up. Your first ever hit is a home run. That was Brandon Ennis. His first catch as a Buckeye was a touchdown. Great throw by Devin Brown, by the way. And great throw by Kyle McCord to Carnell Tate. Absolute dime. So Kyle McCord continues to be solid. And I loved there was that sequence where Kyle McCord stepped up and got 9 yards, 2nd and 10, not a call. He stepped up and got 9 yards. Boom. Maybe it was called. I'll have to go back and look at it. It might have been called now that I think about it. But Kyle McCord gets 9 yards on a QB run. Next play, they rush up there. QB sneak, easy first down. I love it. We've been talking about that. Cade Stover continues to step up. We learned that. Tyleik Williams, every week. I mean, Tyleik Williams out there, I mean, he's like, every bit of probably 340, even though they list him at 320. He moves so well. He's just so athletic. He had 2 batted down passes. He's just wrecking the line of scrimmage. JT Tumo-Lau's playing great. Jack Sawyer had a big sack. Looking over here at my notes here. I mean, Ohio State just dominated total yardage. And this wasn't one of those 41-7 games where Ohio State pulled away late and it looks good. Like, if anything, it kind of looks good for Purdue. I mean, Ohio State's up 34-0 after that second touchdown for Cade Stover, who's putting together one of the best seasons we've seen ever out of an Ohio State tight end. He had a really good season last year, Stover did. He's putting together one of the best seasons we've ever seen out of an Ohio State tight end. The best tight end ever at Ohio State, only, old Buckeye fans will remember this, as a guy named John Frank. John Frank's the best tight end ever play at Ohio State. Also won a Super Bowl with the 49ers, might have won a couple. John Frank was the best. I'm not going to say Cade is as good as John Frank. There's been some other really good ones, Ricky Dudley and many others. There's a lot of guys in the NFL right now from Ohio State. But Cade Stover is putting together a fantastic year, and I'm here for it. Now, it could have been a little closer. I mean, Purdue did help out with their field goal kicking. I thought the first one, I was surprised they even tried that one. That was 48 yards. They said that guy's distance was about 47. He missed it by a lot. And then he had the stoink at the end of the first half, then missed the chip shot, which I thought they should have, gone for the first down. But thank you to Purdue for that. So 41-7. I mean, we'll take that every day of the week. Yeah, we have Michael on YouTube saying still not sold on McCord as a great quarterback, basically saying that the ball placement wasn't there. I agree. I mean, I'm not saying he's great. He's solid, and he does at time leave a lot to be desired with ball placement. Then he'll throw absolute dimes, and then he'll, he's about what I expected. I'm happy. I'm happy with it, because if he was like, he wasn't going to be CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud, number 2 pick of the draft, and should have been number 1 and probably going to be rookie of the year. But I'm overall happy with how Kyle McCord is playing. But as you mentioned, is he great? No, he's not great. Can he do better with ball placement? Absolutely. But does he make big-time throws? Can he make all the throws? Yes. Is he cool under pressure? Yes. Is he tough? Yes. So there's a lot to like about Kyle McCord, a lot more to like than not like. And we're still in the infancy stages of his Ohio State career, which is crazy to think about. It feels like he's been here a long time because he enrolled early, committed relatively early, but still just a junior. And yeah, there's another. This is a good point here. I think we've had a few people bring this up. I'll pull up Larry's comment on YouTube. A lot of drops. So that's another thing. That's another reason that Kyle McCord's stats do look good. Again, 3 more touchdowns, no interceptions, well over 200 yards. And there were drops, including from Marvin, which we're not used to seeing. Marvin had at least 2, maybe 3 drops, depending on how you look at drops. One that they said that they were surprised Marvin didn't get was actually a bad throw by McCord that was behind him. Marvin had to try and go with one arm. But Marvin had at least 2 bad drops, which is – we're so used to Marvin catching things that look like it's going to be, if you're playing at Ohio Stadium, the ball looks like, oh, that's going to be somewhere in B deck. And then Marvin just goes up and gets it. Like, that's what we're used to. So it's just weird seeing Marvin ever drop anything, but really good win for the Buckeyes. And now they can, and it was also good to be able to rest, the starters in the fourth quarter to get ready for Purdue. And we'll see about running back. Hopefully everything that's going on. And if you're, Patrick is going to join us after post-game interviews. Steve Hellwagon, this is the first Buckeye game that he's missed in a long, long time. Somebody has the audacity to get married on an Ohio State football Saturday, so Steve's out of town. But Patrick will join us from Ross-Ade Stadium after interviews, and I'm sure Coach Day is going to be asked about the status of Travion Henderson and Mayan Williams as it pertains to next week. With Chip Trayanum, I think, as we all saw, he didn't get knocked out, but like completely, but he was definitely woozy, and they made the right call. He probably did have a concussion. Sounded like he got reevaluated at halftime. There's a chance he could have come back in the game, even if he was cleared, which I doubt he was. I never saw him with his helmet again. Why put him back in there, especially the way Dallin Hayden was playing? And now, in theory, especially since he wasn't like knocked out cold, even though that was that was a you want to talk about football being a collision sport. That's a prime example right there. But in theory, Chip should be okay for next week. Not playing him after that was a smart move. Xavier Johnson stepped up. That was really good to see. The offensive line overall, played better. This is a Purdue defensive line that people were saying, was pretty good. I needed to see that. I know they had a transfer come in from, I believe, Arkansas. They had their other D tackle coming back from last year, who is honorable mention All Big Ten. They had another honorable mention All Big Ten guy. But Ohio State's O-line got the better of Purdue's D-line, no doubt about that today. And again, Ohio State's D-line was dominant. Good to see that. That's starting four, those third-year guys, all four of them. You had a D tackle. You had Mike Hall and Tyleek Williams. Tyleek is playing like an All-American, and Mike Hall's playing good too. And then JT Tuimoloau and Jack Sawyer. Those four, those 2021 recruits, all of them highly rated. 2 5-stars, 2 4-stars, and Mike Hall was a high 4-star. Tyleek was actually a 3-star when Ohio State got the commitment, and then he got bumped up to a 4-star eventually. But that foursome is a fantastic D-line, and they have depth. We're seeing Caden Curry out there a lot more now, getting some snaps in there. We're seeing Kenyatta Jackson in there, when the game's on the line. We're seeing, obviously, Ty Hamilton. Sometimes Ty Hamilton starts. He didn't today. Now you're seeing we've seen more of, Tyleek's had the most snaps of any of the D tackles. But it's been like Mike Hall and Ty Hamilton that have kind of like almost split the other half. Now you're seeing more of Mike Hall out there, but Ty Hamilton's still a solid number 3. You're seeing Hero Canoe, Jaden McKenzie, even we saw Tywone Malone out there. And now we see Matt Baxendell dressed for success. Good to see you. That's exactly what I wanted to see. 41-7. Yeah, I mean, could it have been like 70-0? I mean, I guess everything could be perfect. Like, I love it. And the spread had dropped to 17.5 backs, and the Buckeyes go out there and they wax Purdue by 34. I'm here for it.
I'm just going to say I picked 38-7 in the round table yesterday, so I think I win closest. So that was the time to take my advice, everybody.
I was so close. I was feeling good about my pick of 38-10 Buckeyes till you reminded me, no. Guess who's even closer? You.
This guy's definitely
this guy right here. So what'd you learn the most? Let's start obviously with there's not many negatives. What did you learn the most that you're really jazzed about?
Well, running the football for more than 4 yards a carry is pretty nice to have. I think we saw them run the ball, 40 times in this game? That's good to see. Dallin Hayden looked good again. You have to wonder how much this guy's gonna have to wait to get on the field at this point, because when he played last year, he was really good too. So you have to say it's good to see that the offensive line was actually firing off the ball. I think the best part about this, though, is the offense started kind of fast, and they kind of stayed moving at about the same pace the whole game. There was none of those lulls where we looked at the team like, what are we looking at here? Ugh. And they didn't really let this one get interesting. They just kind of went about their business and made sure that they put the ball down the field and put themselves in third and shorts. At the end of the day, I thought it was overall it was a solid game. It's not like we scored 65, yay, kind of game that some people want, but 41-7 at Purdue is wildly better than almost all of our other outcomes this year, really. If you think about it, that's a full 60-minute football game. So I think we have to be very happy with this headed into the big game against Penn State. That's going to really be a decider for a lot of things in the Big Ten East.
Yeah, and we'll delve into that in a moment. The Devin Brown wrinkle, I didn't see that coming, and for sure Purdue didn't see it coming. I know he had the fumble.
No.
I give Purdue credit on that. That was just textbook defense, putting your helmet on the ball. I like Devin Brown. They almost like a smaller version of Tebow out there. I like that wrinkle.
I think it was a good idea for the numbers mismatch in the running game down there, the gold line. I mean, think about it. We were having trouble moving the ball, and I don't know if Ryan Day would have showed it this week if we had been more successful running the ball just traditionally. That might have been a wrinkle he saved for a bigger game, but I think the way that they were struggling to run the ball last week, I think Ryan Day thought, screw it, it's time to pull this out. We need to see if this is something that's useful. I expect we'll see that more going forward. What's going to be interesting is if they ever have him actually throw the ball whenever he lines up there, because everybody's going to be keying on the run going forward.
Tyleek Williams continues to be, a lot of guys on defense are playing well, but Tyleek continues to play at an All-American level.
Yeah, this is what we wanted from him, right? This is his money year. And the way he's playing, it's going to be his last year at Ohio State. I'll tell you that much. I think, we at least saw some sacks today out of the D-line. There was so much pressure at times on their quarterback. I mean, even a couple of their completions, it was like circus kind of plays. So we've now had this defense through 6 games of the season, and they're averaging 9 points a game against. And it starts with a very strong D-line. It starts with a secondary that's got it together. It was just another rock-solid game. They had a goal line stand to the 1 yard line in the first half. I mean, that shows that there's some guts about this group. And I know that, like, as Ohio State fans, a lot of people are, when they think of a great D-line, they're thinking, where's the Bosa? Where's the other Bosa? Where's Chase Young? This is a good D, guys. At this point, they've earned my trust that they're a pretty good D. Halfway through the season, averaging 9 points against, and you're undefeated. And in part, you're undefeated because your D has held it together for your offense to turn itself into a pretty decent unit. You got to give the D a ton of credit.
So our guy Dan Rubin texted me and said, Dallin Hayden, best running back on the team. Do you agree?
I don't know if he's wrong. I said that a minute ago. At this point, every time he's played, he's been good. Every time he's played, he's been good. And I get that you have all these other guys here, but like Trey's frequently hurt. Mayan's been struggling with injuries. Chip has shown that he can do stuff at times. It's not like they're bad running backs, but at the end of the day, if it's a meritocracy, every opportunity that he's had, he's taken advantage of it. I mean, even against Michigan, I think he was averaging 4 or 5 yards a carry last year. So, like, at the end of the day, I'm not sure what Dallin Hayden needs to do to be a more consistent part of this team going forward. And the conversation about redshirting him seems like it's a moot one with all the injuries at this point, and Penn State on the table next week.
The irony there, right? I mean, that like we had opined that's what was going on. I mean, like obviously Dallin, unless he was hurt, which we could tell from when they're coming off the practice field, he's in full uniform that he wasn't hurt. It's like they have to be trying to redshirt him if possible, knowing the other running backs are healthy. Mm-hmm. And then of all weeks, Ryan Day confirms that this week. It wasn't like he was being evasive. He just was never asked about it. And then this is the week where everybody's hurt, and then then Chip gets hurt on top of that, and then they need Dallin, and they're like, oh yeah, Dallin's really, really good. Yeah, I don't even care if everybody stays healthy now. Throw that out the window with trying to like redshirt Dallin. Throw it out the window.
When you have a team that's potentially in the mix for the national title, I don't know how much red shirts need to be really brought into the equation, just to be honest. Then if you look at the rest of the schedule, we have 2 games the rest of the season that have giant red alert klaxons written all over them. And then you have another one in Wisconsin that's sort of a big deal kind of game. And the reality is right now, the Penn State game and the Wisconsin game back-to-back, those are going to be big physical contests. You can't go in with 3 banged-up other running backs and not expect Dallin Hayden to play a huge role at this point. So, yeah, I think he should play. I think he should play a lot. I don't really see an alternative, to be quite frank, at this point. Dallin Hayden, again, I'm going to come back to what I just said. Every time he plays, he shows up and plays well. What did he have, 7 yards a carry today and a touch? I mean, reality is he's doing what he's asked to do when he's given a chance. He's grabbing the bull by the horn. He's seizing the brass ring. I don't know what else we need to do except let the kid play. And maybe everybody else can heal up while he's in there too. And there's more of a rotation, but you have 4. You have 4 now. If they're all healthy, you have 4. And Hayden has to play at some point.
Yeah, they don't win the Maryland game last year, as you know, Bax, without him, as you mentioned.
No.
Yeah, and that was obviously his huge game where he was well over 100 yards. And you're right, today, 11 carries, 76 yards. So basically 10 yards. Basically 7 yards a carry. 11 carries, 76 yards, and a touchdown. And looked good doing it. Good, making guys miss.
His vision is good. That's something about him that really stands out. We've had running backs in the past at Ohio State that look like Tarzan, but then they can't, find the trees for the forest. They just run into the back of people. Hayden has vision, right? Hayden has vision. And that's something about him I think sets him apart at times. And you can't teach that.
He's also bigger than what he was last year. He came in, even when he came in, he enrolled. He's at about 195. He got a little bigger during the season. He's about 205 now, so he's about almost 10 pounds heavier than what he was last year, and looks just as quick. So, and you can even see it in his neck. You can even see it in his neck that he's gotten a lot stronger. All right, brass tacks. Penn State. Finally, we can talk about Penn State. Not that we haven't been talking about it. We're not on the team. We can look ahead. I mean, Penn State's looked really good, but they haven't seen this yet. Now, Ohio State hasn't seen that yet, but Ohio State's had a tougher test so far than Penn State's had. Very curious to see what's going to happen next week. I'm just glad this game is in Columbus. Bax, how do you forecast this one?
Well, Penn State hasn't played a team with a pulse yet is their problem. At the end of the day, what's the best team they've played? Was it West Virginia? Something like that? No, what's one of those teams early in the year that was like an okay mid-level team. The reality for them at this point is that, and they're playing UMass this week, by the way. They want to throw shade to Michigan about their terrible schedule. They're playing UMass this week. Yep. At the end of the day, Penn State has a good offense. I think Drew Aller is going to come in here with a chip on his shoulder, being an Ohio kid that didn't get to come to Ohio State. I think they're good, but I'm not convinced they're really significantly better than Maryland, because I think Maryland's good. I think Maryland's a really good team, and Ohio State kind of handled them. So the other thing is at the end of the day for James Franklin, I think he's won once in 9 years against Ohio State. It was the year that they blocked the field goal in Happy Valley at night. So
yep,
he's always the guy who falls short for some reason against Ohio State, right? He's kind of like the reverse John Cooper in that you always would see him on the other sideline and go, all right, we got a shot there if you're the big rival, right? At the end of the day, I think Ohio State's a better football team, though. I think Ohio State has a much better defense. Even though Penn State's D looks good, Ohio State's played better offenses, period. And they've looked good against it. I also think that at the end of the day, it's in the horseshoe. And that's even if it's at noon, and I wish it was at night, because we always play at night there and never at noon there, seems like. And then they're always at noon here. At the end of the day, Ohio State should be the favorite in this game. I think the Buckeyes are going to be the ones that come out of this one. And at the end of the day, this is the first of the big three games that are going to decide the Big Ten East between Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State.
Great stuff from Matt Baxendell. I appreciate it, my friend.
All right. Well, thanks for having me on, Dave. Everybody, Buckeyes are 6-0. We should be happy and enjoy this, okay? 6-0. And our defense is fixed. 9 points a game against in half a season. There's all kinds of things to complain about. We can talk about how good all the young guys looked at times when they popped in, but at the end of the day, they're 6-0 and the defense is awesome. So we have to have sort of let's have fun with this team attitude here, because I know there's a lot of complaints about little things on the board. They won by 5 touchdowns on the road in the Big Ten. That's a good day.
Good day, sir.
Good day, sir.
There he goes, Matt Baxendell. And yeah, real quick, Lynn's Breezy on YouTube, for those that are listening to the podcast only version, she is saying Ryan Day said he has no updates on Emeka, Trey, or Burke just now. Yes, Patrick Murphy tweeted that. I just retweeted that, so we're going to hear from Patrick Murphy. But Coach Day at the postgame press conference has no update on any of the injured guys. Let's bring in my man in Amsterdam, Heath Schneider. This is what I wanted to see, Heater. 41-7. I loved it.
That's a good day.
Yeah, today was a good day. Didn't have to use your AK. What are your main takeaways?
My main takeaways, a couple different things. One, the defensive line is stepping up. I know you guys just talked a little bit about it, but boy, that defensive line earlier in the year, it felt like they weren't getting any penetration. They weren't getting any pressure on passing plays, unless there was a blitz to help them out, and they weren't blitzing enough to create consistent pressure. But I see that happening now. You guys mentioned Tyleik Williams playing like an All-American, and good grief if he's not. He absolutely is. JTT is bringing the heat more and more. He had another sack and a half today, and is making his presence felt more with – maybe not getting to the quarterback, but getting more pressure. It felt like, as I have other takeaways, the back end of the defense played pretty well, minus a couple of things when they had the end of the first half drive where they just kind of melted down the field pretty easily. But even then, their kicker had the yips. Looked like, for those Browns fans out there, looked like Cade York was kicking for them. It was just horrible.
Cade York without the distance, maybe,
Yeah. And the first one I called, I was like, that looks like he's setting up. It's going to go wide left. There's no way I could have called that third one from point blank range that he would hook it so hard. On the receiving end, I thought I'm trying to figure out what was up with Harrison. He had 3 or 4 drops that I counted. Still had a 100-yard game, but we're talking about a guy who is truly the best receiver in America, and just didn't have his A game when it came to. Normally, it touches a hand of his and it's lights out, and that just wasn't the case today. But then you have Cade Stover, who is. I said it a couple of times. I said it in my immediately after the game analysis. He is the best tight end in Columbus, at least since Hartsock, I would think.
And there's been some good draft picks. I mean, you think about like Hireman was a 3rd-round pick, national champion. Van Nett, 3rd-round pick, national champion. Played in the NFL for a long time. I'd still be in there. Before that, Stoneburner played in the NFL. They had Luke Farrell, 5th-round pick, still in the NFL. Jeremy Ruckert, 3rd-round pick, still in the NFL. And you're absolutely right. Stover is the best they've had since Ben Hartsock, and he's better than Ben Hartsock. And I say that as someone who loves Ben Hartsock.
I love me some Ben Hartsock. If nothing else, for the quotes. The guy was a quote machine.
Speaking of national champions, by the way.
Right. It's amazing. It's amazing how many tight ends they're putting into the NFL. And every year we say the same thing. They're not utilizing the tight end enough. And I think with Stover, it's the first time I've ever sat down and thought, hey, they're finally using this tight end position enough that I don't think they're missing out. And I think that's huge. As you know, I've been taking a lot of heat this year on my evaluation and analysis of Kyle McCord. My takeaway from him is he's still throwing way too many balls off his back foot, which prevents him from getting. While he may get distance, he's not going to get it there with the velocity. And sooner or later, there's going to be a defensive back that catches up to that. And that's a scary thing, because there was one play. I want to say it was Harrison's first, his touchdown catch. He threw that off his back foot. A quicker defensive back could have had a pick six, 100 yards the other direction.
Stover's touchdown was not a good pass.
Yeah.
Stover just made Stover's first touchdown. I mean, Stover just made a hell of a catch.
Oh yeah.
There were others that Kyle got away with that were just not good ball placement at all. And then there's others where you're like, damn, he just dropped a dime there. It's like he's solid.
Was the best deep ball I've ever seen him throw. It was perfectly placed. It was in stride. Everything about that ball was perfect. And that shows just how good he can be when he sets up, he has a base under him, and he tosses that ball in rhythm.
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with him. He has to get better.
Yeah.
He continues to remind me a little bit of Bobby Hoying, and I'm okay with that, because Bobby Hoying, as a fifth-year senior, ended up like setting school records at the time. He's not there yet. Right. He reminds me of a Bobby Hoying, and not even Bobby Hoying when Bobby Hoying was in his first year, more like Bobby Hoying in his second year, who was still pretty solid. Let's hope he can get to Bobby Hoying in his third year, because that's when Bobby Hoying really took off. So this
having a Heisman running back
does and a Biletnikoff wide receiver,
right?
And
Ricky Dudley coming out of basketball,
and the best left tackle in football history, right. Orlando Pace.
All of those help Bobby Hoying.
Maybe Bobby Hoying was just okay. No, I'm kidding. He was a 3rd-round pick. He's stayed in the NFL. That's the one we thought was going to be. We're finally going to have our NFL quarterback, because for like 4 games with the Eagles to finish like his second year, he was the guy. Then opened up the next year as the starting quarterback for the Eagles. Then didn't finish the year.
No.
Even with the team, this D line, man. We talked about Tyleik Williams, but JT Tuimoloau continues to play at an All-American level, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Mike Hall, I love Mike Hall, and good to see Jack Sawyer. Jack Sawyer continues to maybe not be what we thought he'd be as a 3rd-year guy, but like, compared to the beginning of the year, Heater, I'm seeing Jack Sawyer become more of a dude.
Agreed. He had a sack and a half today. He seemed to he had a couple of plays where he was kind of all over the field, which was great to see. Like I said, this defensive line at the beginning of the year, they are maturing and gelling at a much faster rate than the offensive line is, right? The offensive line, is not coming along nearly as quickly as this defensive line. And this defensive line is really starting to play the kind of defense that you expect out of a championship level team. And you're really going to need that against the heightened players that Penn State has next week coming your way, you know?
I like the X-Man's getting some love here, Heater, because our listeners are completely right. Brian Emerson on YouTube, the X-Man is underrated and he's highly utilized, or maybe he's saying he's underutilized. He wasn't underutilized today. He was used as a return man, running back, wide receiver. I love the X-Man, 6-year senior from Cincinnati, came in as a walk-on. If you go back, if you go back and read our like practice reports from like 4 years ago, it'd be like, dude, every time we're out there, at the time we were number 25. This number 25, Xavier Johnson, is always making plays. And then he was number 10 last year. Now he's 0. It doesn't matter what number this young man wears. He makes plays, and I love it. What a great story, by the way, to come in as a walk-on, still be here as a 6-year senior, now be on scholarship, making plays just like he did last year, Heater.
And a captain, right?
And thank you.
He does it and does it the right way. I tell you 2 things about him. One, that he's a guy that has, pardon me, an attitude that is absolutely fantastic. I'm going to do whatever it takes to help the team. Plug me in. I mean, it's a real Rudy Rudiger kind of attitude. Whatever it takes, I'm going to do. Every time I look at him and I think, boy, he looks like he's not running all that fast, but all of a sudden he's going at a really fast pace. But he's one of those kind of players that just doesn't look all that fast, and then suddenly he's gobbling up yards. It's really interesting because I would look at the opposite. If you think back to like Robert Smith, he was such a glider that he was just chewing up yards with each stride, 5 yards a stride, it seemed like it sometimes. And X-Man, love what he does. It just only looks like he's not running fast, but he is.
Yeah, he definitely is. Let's go through some other things. So Devin Brown, how surprised were you to see that package? And they kept going to it, even after he fumbled. How surprised were you? And then how much did you like it?
So I mentioned to you in text during the game that they were setting up stuff for Penn State, and I would not be surprised to see the same setup next week, short yardage situation, maybe on a 3rd down or something like that. I wouldn't think on a 4th, but he goes in, feigns the run, pulls up and passes to a releasing Kate Stover or something like that. Don't show it this week. Just show give them something on film that shows tendencies. Hey, look, this is what they do when he's in there and about, in the middle of the game.
And if you're Penn State's D coordinator, you're sitting there thinking, oh, we have because they've had 2 off weeks basically, including their game right now against UMass. They actually had a real off week last week, and they've been just studying Ohio State. And you know that they're thinking, oh, we got Ohio State's short yardage goal line situation down, and then all of a sudden Ohio State throws Devin Brown in there, and it looked effective. So that was good to see. I'll get you out of here on this, and we're going to hear from Patrick Murphy live from Ross-Ade Stadium. What a way for Brandon Ennis to get his career started. His first ever catch is a touchdown, and Devin Brown is not just a runner. He put that ball. You can see why it was a tight competition in camp.
Yeah.
Good throw by Devin Brown, and good to see Brandon Ennis get a touchdown. Good to see Carnell Tate get a lot of playing time and get a touchdown himself.
I appreciate the time today, especially after I wasn't able to come in after Notre Dame. Thank you so much for having me back.
You were doing a solid for your friend, my friend.
Two things. Watching Ennis get that ball was as good a ball as I have seen Brown throw on a deep ball, and so I probably saw the best deep ball throw from each of the quarterbacks in the same half of the same game. And it was really impressive to see. Ennis has to be on cloud 9. It's not often you come in and that's your first touch, right? You come in and boom, all of a sudden you're 58 yards downfield. And it was a very nice move to get down the field and get that. But it was interesting to me to see both those players with very beautiful in-stride passes, best passes I've seen both of those quarterbacks make on a deep ball this season. So
Heater, I see it's 4:20, so I know you got to get out of there.
Yes.
Great hearing from you as always, my friend.
Amen. I love it. Patrick, go get him, Tiger.
He is.
Thanks,
Heath
Peter.
Schneider.
Good to see you.
Get on Bucknuts and read his immediately after the game analysis. Great stuff from my man in Amsterdam, Heath Schneider. Patrick Murphy, live from Ross-Ade Stadium. You are looking live at Ross-Ade Stadium. All right,
Windy
Patrick,
Ross-Ade Stadium.
What's that?
A windy Ross-Ade Stadium. It wasn't that windy during the game, I don't think, but it is definitely windy now.
Your main takeaway.
Look, this is what you should do to a team like Purdue the week before you play Penn State. I think you wanted to come out of this feeling good. They do feel good. I mean, it was 20-0 at one point, and it's like they're not even playing that well, and they're on pace to win 40-0. So, I think we could touch on a lot of things. I heard you talk about the red zone, Devin Brown stuff. Here's my hot take on it. I don't like it. I don't think that it's effective. I think he should have scored on that first one. I think it just doesn't. He doesn't have the explosiveness of a Braxton Miller, even like a JT Barrett. He didn't read the play well. The fumble, obviously, helmet on ball, that happens. But I just don't like. I thought this, and I think we talked about it after in one of the games he played earlier this season. Like, for a guy who's known more as a dual threat guy, he doesn't blow me away with his running ability. And then when you get down there, aside from, kind of equating numbers, which is an old Urban Meyer thing that Ryan Day used again after the game, I don't know. It shouldn't have taken them 3 plays after they brought him in to get a touchdown. It should have happened on the first one, but he tries to initiate contact instead of just running into the end zone. And I don't know, maybe it gets better and if they keep using it, but I think, you're Ohio State. I don't think you need to be doing this.
Yeah, my bad. I said Tate scored a touchdown. I was corrected by a member of our live audience. My bad.
He had a good game, though.
He did have a good game. He had that long reception, did not have a touchdown. Ennis obviously had the touchdown. Marvin had a touchdown. All right, so Dallin Hayden, I find it ironic as heck. I was talking about this earlier. We've been opining for the last few weeks. Probably what they're doing with Dallin is they're trying to redshirt him. He'll be at the ready if needed, but that just made the most sense. And then of all weeks, Coach Dave confirms that this week, was asked about it. And then of all weeks, Dallin Hayden comes out and shows out, 11 carries, 76 yards and a touchdown. And I don't even care if all the running backs get healthy, Patrick, as I said earlier in the show. Throw the idea of Dallin Hayden redshirting out the window. Dan Rubin texted saying he thinks Dallin's the best running back on the team. If he's not, he's damn close. And I don't want to see him redshirted. They need him, and he played really well today.
Yeah, I asked Coach Day about him him being down Hayden being ready, because last year, obviously, it wasn't until I think that Indiana game when he kind of broke in late in the year. Today, obviously, he'd only played 3 snaps prior to today, didn't have a carry yet this season, but he was ready to go. And he didn't expect to play a ton, I don't think, today. It didn't look like that was part of the plan early in the game. Ryan Day was asked about this after the game, and he said, first of all, that the fact that they had him, haven't used him, means that they can still play him in a couple more games and redshirt him. So maybe smart thinking by the coaching staff there, but I don't know what they're going to do, because I think he was asked right at the end of the press conference, do you reconsider that? And he was like, yeah, we'll have to look at it. But look, I think for whatever reason, they've been hesitant to use Dallin a lot. It took until everyone else was hurt last season, and it's doing the same this season. I don't know why. And Ryan Day brought up again in the post game, he held on to the ball. Ball security is the number one thing. I don't think Dallin Hayden's fumbled the ball in a game. Maybe he fumbles it in practice. It's a weird situation that they just seem to want to preserve him for some reason. And to me, I agree with what you said with what Dan texted you. I don't know if he is the best running back in the team. I still think he needs to do some of the non-ball carrying stuff a little bit better, pass protection and things like that. But look, he's effective. Now, let's remember, this is a Purdue team that was not good against the run. So, who knows what the numbers look like if it's any of the other running backs out there. But again, his opportunity comes, he takes it, and you've got to be pleased with what he can do. And if it's not this year, it's definitely coming soon.
I saw your tweet. I retweeted it. I talked about it early in the show, but just give the people an update. You're just now coming from post-game interviews. Coach Day, basically mum was the word on injuries about everyone, right?
Yeah, it was the first question asked. And it's funny because he met reporters outside the team hotel when they arrived in West Lafayette yesterday and said that Emeka Egbuka didn't travel with the team, which is, I saw it on Twitter and was like, oh, that's more information than he normally gives about player injuries. And then he gets asked about it first thing in the press conference. Can you talk about the, Travion and Chip and Emeka? And he just goes, I don't have anything on that. I can't give you anything on that. And that was it. And it was just like, well, yesterday you were willing to talk about it. So look, he's back to not talking injuries. I imagine that's going to be kind of the way he is going forward again, which is unfortunate. I thought we were turning a corner here, but nothing to say other than what everybody saw.
Let's just opine, because that's always a good idea when reporters
sure,
just
yeah, right.
about injuries that they know nothing about. But seriously, like last week, it was a surprise that Trey didn't play. He went through warmups. We knew by then he was out, but he still went through warmups, was sprinting. And then basically the story was, not basically, what we were told was he could have played against Maryland, but we have all these other running backs healthy. We know what happened last year. Let's just make sure we're cautious with him. He could have played today. Was that not true? Did he have a setback? Maybe was it more serious than what we thought? Is something else going on? What's your gut feeling here, Patrick, with what's going on with Trey?
I think they are being very careful with him because they want him when they need him the most. And they know, because he's the most explosive running back on this team, that games like next week are going to be pretty important in terms of having him. So, look, both games, when he came out for warmups, I thought he looks fine. So it's clearly not like it, and I believe that it is an injury. From what I've been told, it's an injury. But clearly it's not like an ankle or something that's limiting him from doing these jogging warm-ups and stuff like that. Whatever he's dealing with, must be something where they wanted to come out and test it and see how he was doing. Again, I thought he looked fine, but it is, this has been his career. Even going back to his freshman year, he came out of games at halftime. Now, often Ohio State was up big, so it was like, well, it made sense to take him out anyway. But he's had various injuries, and look, it's unfortunate because he's a super talented kid. If he stays healthy, he's just had trouble doing that. And frankly, this running back room in its entirety has had trouble staying healthy, other than really Dallin Hayden. So, I'll be interested to see. I assume he will be available next week. I don't think what Ryan Day told us on Tuesday was him just fabricating things, but the situation is strange, no doubt.
The moment I'm going to ask you to, before you get out of here, maybe something I haven't asked you, so think about that you really want to get out there. Before we do that, this D-line looked great. Now, and they continue to play well. Now, I know Purdue's offensive line's not good, and they're banged up. So they already weren't good. They were down a starter coming into the game, and then they lost another starter. They even lost maybe another starter late, but that's irrelevant. But this D-line's looking real. Even guys like Jack Sawyer, who have not been impressive, look really good today. This D-line, Tyleek Williams, Mike Hall, Tuimo Loau, Sawyer, Curry, some of the backups looking really good.
Yes, absolutely. It's third time in their career, JT Tuimoloau and Jack Sawyer have had sacks in the same game, which is not enough in my mind. But good to see them at least do it today. I thought this is as good as the defensive line in total. It's in its entirety, I thought it played. Again, there are reasons for that it probably looked better. But as I said before, I think having confidence going into a game like next week is important. And I think you can build off that. And, these defensive ends aren't pure pass rushers, at least the starting guys. I think the JT Tuimoloau has proven very effective against the run. I think Jack Sawyer is actually pretty good against the run. JT Tuimoloau can do a lot of different things. He had a play today where for some reason he was left unblocked and just came charging down on Hudson Card. I mean, the speed that he closes on any of these plays is impressive. And, I lost count of the number of times Ohio State's interior defensive linemen were getting held and it was not getting called. One time Tyleek Williams had both hands in the air, his jersey being pulled down to mid-chest, and the referee afterwards just kind of shrugged his shoulders at him. And I was just like, I don't know how you missed that one. But, it happens. I'm not trying to start a conspiracy. Ohio State holds sometimes too. Though the call that Josh Simmons got called for was terrible. The guy just fell down from what we saw, and Josh Simmons just laid on top of him to make sure he didn't get back up and hit McCord. I don't know what that one was. I don't know if people just assume Josh Simmons is holding, but I saw some people on Twitter complaining about him, and I was like, that was not his fault. He handled that play just right.
And he got the business from Ryan Day. Because Ryan Day,
right.
Josh Simmons came off the field. Ryan Day was chewing everybody out because they got the delay of game. He's chewing Tony Alford out. He's yelling at everybody. And then Josh Simmons comes off the field. He's yelling at Josh Simmons, and you screwed the drive up by getting that penalty. Interesting that was actually a bad call. And I'm glad Jeremiah, before I ask you one more thing, Jeremiah, I'm glad he brought this up on YouTube. How about this? Ohio State is 6 games into the season. 3 of the games have been played in the state of Indiana. That is crazy.
We've been here a lot.
At Indiana, at Notre Dame, and then at Purdue. It's crazy. Hopefully they have one more in the state of Indiana, my friend.
Yeah. We as we checked into the hotel yesterday evening, a lady at the desk asked us, what we're here for. We're telling them. She was like, "Oh, okay." And she was like, "I didn't realize Ohio State was playing here this week." And she thought they were playing Indiana. And we're like, "No, they already played Indiana. In fact, this is our 3rd time in 2 months or whatever of coming here for a game." And then the guy that was working next to her was like, "Well, if things go right, you'll be here again at the end of the season, right?" And we were like, "That's right."
All right, let's get you out of here on this. What's something I'm leaving out? Something from the post-game presser you want to get out there? Anything from the game that you want to mention? You can name more than one thing, Mr. Patrick Murphy.
Yeah, I think, not to be negative, but I think the calls for CJ Hicks to start playing, I don't know if you touched on this earlier, we don't see him a lot, and there must be a reason for that. And then when he is on the field, he's not doing a ton. And I think today there were a couple of plays where you could kind of see, okay, this is why this kid is not on the field yet. This is not an indictment on him. I think he's very talented, but I do think that there are reasons for him not, passing up these other linebackers who I thought were better today. Still some issues. I agree with that comment you just threw up there. I didn't see the name, but angry Ryan Day, emotional Ryan Day is there it is from Todd. Is the best, and I wish he would come into the post-game press conference more like he did after Notre Dame. He's been like the last couple games, he's still been fun, but when he was fired up after Notre Dame, and he was a little bit today, I think he just he knows what's coming next week. But that is definitely the best Ryan Day, and I think you see the results when he kind of lets it go a little bit.
I wonder if any of us will ask a question, and he's like, "You're speaking Japanese to me right now." Full of James Franklin on a reporter. All right, good stuff, my friend.
And
good
on a
stuff.
question that made complete sense. That was a fine question to be asked of James Franklin.
It totally was. We all have seen it. Trace McSorley's best play against Ohio State was just throwing it up for grabs deep. And then Sean Clifford's best play was throwing it up for grabs to Dotson.
Yep.
And James Franklin's all like, apoplectic. Like, what are you talking about? Like, we would never do that. Like, yes, you would. Yes,
also,
you're
playing UMass this week. Just throw the ball.
Just throw it up. You mean no matter what? Yes, that's what I mean. When billion-dollar coach, I know he's not billion, when guys making $10 million a year just tried to embarrass a reporter who asked a legit question, those are the type of coaches that can just go fly a kite. Anyway, Patrick, you could probably fly a kite. It's so windy right now in Ross State, but you got to get to work. So
I'm hoping there's still some. I'm hoping there's still some Raising Cane's left over. Jerry Emmig said if there was some left over from the team, we could take it. So I'm going to see if I can get it free.
If I prevented you from getting Cane's, then get some on the way home and I'll Venmo you.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, thank you, sir.
All right. See you, Dave.
Patrick Murphy live from Ross-Ade Stadium, which has been a house of horrors for Ohio State. Not so much today. Buckeyes took care of business and then some, 41-7. Let's get some final questions. I'm sure most of you are watching this Washington-Oregon game. I have it on in the background here. Washington 14, Oregon 8. Man, Big Ten is not messing around, huh? I mean, USC, they can't play defense. I'm still looking forward to that USC Notre Dame game tonight, but Washington and Oregon, number 7 against number 8. It's in Seattle, and Washington's leading 14-8. So that's basically an elimination game right there. I'll venture to say whoever wins this game is going to win the Pac-12. The last year of the Pac-12, which is insane. Isn't that crazy? The Pac-12 is just dissolving. And it's because of the Big Ten. No matter what the Big Ten wants to say, it's like, well, it's not because of us. Yes, it is. But, you had to do it. Once the SEC took Texas and Oklahoma, the Big Ten's hands were tied, in my opinion. They had to make a move, and that move couldn't be, adding, a C-level team. They had to go big, and they got both LA schools, and then they end up getting Oregon and Washington. So you had to do it. And more is coming. I'm sure the SEC is not going to stop at 18. I bet they'll add Florida State and Clemson eventually, maybe even Miami and somebody else. And I don't think the Big Ten's done at 18. Hopefully they are for a while. We've seen enough change in college football. All right, let's get back to Ohio State. Tom on YouTube is saying McCord is not good at all. He just throws the ball up for grabs. He throws behind and short to the receivers. You can look at plays where you think that he's not good at all. Then you can look at plays where he looks great. So the truth's somewhere in the middle, Tom. I mean, he's been solid. So not even in the middle, more toward him being good than bad. He's not bad. He's just, there are times he looks bad and there are times he looks great. First year starting quarterback. And again, I can't stress this enough. There's a reason that this battle didn't even end at the end of camp between Devin Brown and Kyle McCord. I mean, McCord was the starter against Indiana, but what did Ryan Day say? He said it's so close. Both guys are going to play. Then they got in a dogfight against Indiana, and McCord played all of but 4 plays. But that never would have been the case. Ryan Day never would have said that if McCord was clearly better in camp. So, and it's not like Devin Brown was setting the world on fire. So it's those guys are both solid. McCord's a little better. I see the arm talent with Kyle McCord, though. So you couldn't ask for a better quarterback coach than Ryan Day. So just keep getting better, keep getting better, keep getting better. These games against Penn State and Michigan are being won in the trenches. Yeah, McCord needs to play well, but if they don't win the game in the trenches on both sides, they're not going to win. If they do win the game in the trenches, McCord doesn't even need to play great. He just needs to play good, and I think he will do that. Caleb on Facebook, McCord makes the right plays. He just does it in a shaky manner, but the right plays matter. Yeah, I thought the first, touchdown to Mark, he did throw off his back foot, but he got it there. Of course, I remember Mike Tomczak. That's when when I first started loving Ohio State football. Tomczak was the quarterback. Played a long time in the NFL, but mostly as a backup. Really, he's Ohio State's best quarterback, NFL quarterback ever, is Mike Tomczak. If you look at career, he lasted 15, 16 years in the NFL. Loved Mike Tomczak. Number 15, Mike Tomczak. Of course, I remember Mike Tomczak. That 84 Rose Bowl team. My first ever Ohio State game in Ohio Stadium. My dad played this right. My first ever game in person was a Michigan game. 84 Ohio State, Michigan. And not only just an Ohio State, Michigan game, but Ohio State clinched the Big Ten title in a trip to the Rose Bowl. 21-6 over Michigan. Keith Byers, true freshman Chris Spielman, true freshman Chris Carter, the aforementioned Mike Tomczak. Keith Byers almost won the Heisman that year, was second for the Heisman behind Doug Flutie. If Doug Flutie doesn't have that Hail Mary against Miami, Byers is your Heisman Trophy winner. So 84 Buckeyes. Yeah, that was my first ever game in person, was the 84 Michigan game, 21-6 Buckeyes. I was hooked about the age of 6 on Ohio State football. It took me a couple years later to finally get to a game, but good job by my dad. How about make the first game an Ohio State Michigan game? Good work, Dad. Good work. Yeah, I mean, Krenzel won a national title, as Gary on YouTube says. Cardale won a national title. Rex Kern ended up being a really good quarterback. No one knew who Rex Kern was entering 1968. I certainly didn't, because I wasn't born for another 8 years. But seriously, going back, look at any of the college football previews going into that year. Nothing was expected out of Ohio State going into 68. Then the Super Softs happened. Nothing was expected out of Ohio State going into 2002. They were 7-5 Jim Tressel's first year. Did beat Michigan, and then we know what happened. They won the national title. I won't say nothing was expected in 2014, but certainly nothing was expected after Braxton got hurt, and then JT had to take over, and then it was and then they lose to Virginia Tech, season over, right? And then eventually JT gets hurt against Michigan, season over again, right? For the third time, Braxton's hurt, season's over. Lose to Virginia Tech, season over. JT breaks his leg, season over. No. They win the national title. Just keep winning, baby. Keep winning. And now, there's certain games that we knew could be hiccups going into the year. Really, there was 4. Notre Dame, Penn State, Wisconsin, Michigan. Okay, they cleared the Notre Dame hurdle barely. Now it's time for Penn State, and we'll see if this hype for Penn State is real. I think their defense might be better than people think. I think their offense might be a little overrated. I really like their running backs. I like most of their offensive line. I think Aller will be a really good quarterback, but I think right now he's not showing the ability to throw the ball down the field. And I've seen him sail a lot of passes. So we'll see what happens. If this game is in Happy Valley, not that I'm not concerned about it, but I'd be a lot more concerned about it if it was in Happy Valley. I think the Buckeyes are going to take care of business. High noon. Yeah, another noon game. Yeah, Fox. Big noon kickoff next week. So, I thought the Peacock comments. I thought the Peacock feed was good. It seemed like on the TV, if you had to download the app and watch it on the TV, it seemed like that was almost a little like shakier than if you're just watching it on a computer. At least that was the experience in my house. Just watching on my computer from a close range, it was clear. Never petered out. I was actually happy with the Peacock experience. So never had to bury my head in the sand or anything like that. Those are flamingos. Never mind. I don't know what I'm talking about. Not impressed with Wisconsin at all. They have been. I haven't watched them yet today, but Gary on YouTube saying he's not impressed with Wisconsin. I've watched them. The times I have watched Wisconsin, they've looked okay. Like Luke's still trying to get his footing, and like they look decent, but we don't know yet. That's probably going to be a night game at Camp Randall, and I have no doubt if Wisconsin's a B- team this year, they're going to play like at least an A- team that night. So get ready for another tough one. A couple of tough ones coming up, and you get a little bit of a break there. You get Rutgers. You get the artist formerly known as Michigan State, who I think actually beat Rutgers today, unless Rutgers came back. I've been working. And then Minnesota, who I thought that'd be not a good game the week before Michigan. Now Minnesota's looking awful this year. So you get kind of a nice 3-week stretch before the Michigan game, whereas Michigan's got a couple of tough games right before Ohio State. So that makes things a little interesting there. So, we'll see what happens. Michigan's got, Penn State and then Maryland right before the Ohio State game. So now the game's in Ann Arbor. You'd take Michigan's situation over Ohio State's as far as the way the schedule sets up if you get the home game. But all right, let's get some final. My guy on YouTube is very, very confident, thinking we're going to kill Penn State. Willon Lackey. I like that. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. I like that. Oh, Rutgers did come back and win. That's the most Michigan State thing. Last I saw Michigan State was up like double digits in the second half. Rutgers came back and win. Hey, good thing for Greg Schiano. Michigan State's head coach, he's not going to be there anyway. Schiano now has them at 5-2. I feel good for my guy Paul Keels. For those who don't know, not only, as you guys know, Paul Keels does a great job. Has been the voice of the Buckeyes for a long time. For those that don't know him, I bet most of you do. He's a great guy too, a great man. Like I've gotten to know Paul just through my side job at 97.1 The Fan, and he'll be in there many times, and I'll run into him at Ohio State events, of course, as well. And just a truly good person as well. In addition to having the voice of God. So Paul Keels, I feel good for him and Jim Lachey, another great guy. And I think Buckeye fans are very fortunate to have those guys as, the play-by-play and color analysts and they've been there forever because those guys are really good. But I feel good for them because a lot of people didn't get Peacock today, and they just I'm just going to listen to the game on radio, old school style. I know my mom and dad did that, so I know a lot of people did that. So I'm sure the radio ratings were at sky high. First time since 1997, which, by the way, was Paul Keels' first year doing Ohio State games. Ironically, first time since 1997, an Ohio State football game was not on TV, either broadcast TV or cable TV. The one that was kind of almost reminds me of this one was when the first time ever on Big Ten Network when they played Indiana. I'm sure you guys will remember that. A lot of people didn't have Big Ten Network yet, so people were scrambling, people were upset. People were cursing Big Ten Network, but things changed. I thought Peacock did a good job today. And yeah, when the Big Ten tried to get every dime possible, this is the result. You know, you're going to have probably one Ohio State game every year on Peacock. Maybe it'll be every other year. I don't think it'll ever be twice a year. But the Big Ten, you know, got every dime they could. And part of the deal was they were going to have night games on NBC, and they were going to have games that were Peacock only for NBC. That was part of NBC ponying up and joining Fox in this venture and CBS. So, but yeah, and I'm sure we'll see the same thing next year on Paramount Plus. There'll be games that are just on Paramount Plus. It's how it works, my friends. It's no different than cable in the 80s when it first came alive and people were like, I'm not going to pay for this, including maybe someone who raised me. I'm still not over it, Mom, that you wouldn't get cable. I'm still not over it until until I was like a senior in high school. I was like the only one of my friends that didn't have cable. I was like the biggest sports fan. I had to go to my friend's house to watch ESPN. It was embarrassing. And it was just out of principle. It's not like we didn't have the money to have cable. She just didn't want to get it. But other than that, my mom's awesome. They raised me right. They're still Ohio State fans. So, but yeah, but it's no different than that, though. I mean, times change. $5.99 for Peacock per month. There's going to be like 4 or 5 Ohio State basketball games on there. I thought they did a good job. Honky Kong on YouTube. Dave, do you see any Buckeye player having a chance at the Heisman this year? Not realistically. It's going to go to one of the quarterbacks. I mean, if anybody, it'd be Marv. Although, I mean, McCord's stats were interesting. 11 touchdowns and 1 interception now. And his 1 interception was on a 4th down where the guy fell down. His receiver fell down. He had to throw it anyway. It's 4th down. So 11 touchdowns, 1 interception. I guess in theory, if McCord goes crazy these next 6 games and Ohio State's undefeated, he could be in the discussion at least. Marvin's the one guy I think could be in the discussion, but it's probably going to be Caleb Williams or Penix, you'd have to think. So, all right. Appreciate you guys. We have a Marty Brenneman shout out. I love that. Frank Carone, the Marty Brenneman, great radio voice for the Cincinnati Reds. Yes, Marty Brenneman, Hall of Famer, definitely. One of the best, the retired Marty Brenneman. All right. Well, I appreciate you guys joining me. And thank you to all of my guests. Thanks to Matt Baxendell. Thanks to Heath Schneider, aka Heater. You can get on Bucknuts and read Heath's post-game analysis right now. Thanks to Patrick Murphy live from Ross-Ade Stadium. Patrick is going to have full coverage of this game. Steve Hellwagon's game story is up. Even though Steve wasn't in person, he still did a game story. Even when Steve's not there, Steve's there. But Patrick is our man on the ground. He's going to have plenty of coverage. So keep it locked to Bucknuts for all of that. Thanks to all of you. I appreciate you guys joining me. Thanks for all of your questions and comments. And just thanks for you guys for hopping in here and joining me. This has been What We Learned Live. I am Dave Biddle. Thank you very much. Hope everyone has a great day or a great evening and a great rest of your weekend.